Gautam, are you there?
Hello, ma'am. Yeah, we have joined.
Yeah, very good morning, Gautam. I
Good
welcome you
morning,
on
ma'am.
board. Prakhar is there?
Yeah, Prakar is joining.
Yeah. Hello, Prakhar. Are we good to start? Can I get any confirmation from Prakhar and Gautam?
Yes, yes, we can start.
Yeah. So we are now 60. So as and when the event goes on, if I can take up any few other people, then I shall do it on my end. Okay.
Sure, ma'am. That's fine.
All right. The meeting is recorded. Yeah. Just give me
Sure.
2 minutes. I'll start it up. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I hope everyone can hear me. Am I audible to
yes,
everyone?
yes.
All right. Okay. I just request all the participants to kindly mute yourselves and switch off your videos for the better utilization of the network. Yeah. So a very good morning to all the participants present in today's event on how to plan for startups addressing the legal and ethical issues. Organized and presented by Sir M. Vishweshraya Institute of Technology under the banner of Institute Innovation Council, IIC, an initiative by MHRD. On behalf of the management, Shri KET, Principal and IIC Chair, Dr. V.R. Manjunath, President IIC, Dr. Supriya VG, Professor in the Department of Electronic and Communication Engineering, Vice President IIC Dr. H.G. Nagendra, Professor and Head of Department of Biotechnology, IIC member and convener Dr. Vani Priya, Associate Professor from the Department of Information Science and Engineering, Coordinator Dr. Sushila Shidnal, Assistant Professor from the Department of Computer Science and Engineering, and myself, Dr. Pallavi R., Associate Professor from the Department of Computer Science and Engineering. I cordially invite our today's resource persons, Mr. Gautam Khurana, co-founder and CTO at Sense Loaf Technologies, and Mr. Prakhar Agrawal, co-founder and CEO at SenseLoaf Technologies. It is indeed our privilege to have you both, who are also our alumni from Computer Science and Engineering Department and Mechanical Department amongst us today. It is always a proud moment to see our students achieving heights professionally and giving it back their experience through such talks to their juniors at gatherings like this. On behalf of IIC team, I would like to declare the event now to be open by quoting a line. It's not about ideas, It's always about making these ideas happen, which is the essence of today's workshop. But let me now introduce our resource person to the audience. Mr. Gautam Khurana, after completing his undergraduate from Sir MBIT, worked with multiple startups and MNCs in e-commerce, telecom, and HR tech space, etc. He has to his credit about 2.5 years of experience as software developer, where he mostly was into coding backends using C++, Python, and 7 years of experience as data scientist, where he used machine learning and NLP to develop solutions related to delivery time prediction, order management, information extraction, recommendations, and so on. Gautam founded Sense Loaf Technologies in the year 2018, along with another MVITN, Prakhar Agrawal, a student of Mechanical Department, where they built artificial intelligence-based talent acquisition and management platform, which help companies to find, engage, and retain the right talent. Gautam leads the technology and product development, while Prakhar the executive section. Together, they develop in-house NLP engine to read and extract information from resumes and automatically match them with the job descriptions or vice versa based on custom parameters, helping industry to shift from keyboard-based search mechanism to context-based recommendations. As part of building their startup, they enriched their experience working across whole stack of product development, management cycle, and raising the business around the same. I once again welcome our resource persons for today, Mr. Gautam and Mr. Prakhar, to the event. And now I hand over the session to the resource person. You may now take up, Gautam.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks a lot for giving the warm introduction. And yeah, so Prakhar, let's start, can we start? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you so much, Pallavi ma'am. And as you said, like it's definitely like a pretty good experience for us to like to come back to the same university after so many years and give this talk to students, potential students. So definitely we're excited to like talk to potential students and potential entrepreneurs. And one thing that I do want to say is that guys, please feel free to like ask questions because this is like we want this to be a more communicative workshop, and we're not trying to like teach you anything, but as we will show in the workshop is that it's growing in a startup, it's all about communication and like working with the right people. So Gautam, if you can start with the presentation.
Sure. Yeah. Are you guys able to see the screen?
Yes, I'm able to see. Yeah.
Sure. So let,
Right.
yeah.
So as I said, like we would like to start with this quote, right? That if you are have the right people, like people who you can believe with and can take this forward, any problem can become an opportunity, right? And that has been the premise. So as Pallavi ma'am said that both me and Gautam were in MVIT around 2000. We joined MVIT 2010, and we were good friends. And we come back together around 2016 to start this journey about Sense Loaf. So this is something I would also say that you guys keep in mind that any problem is not big enough, like if you have the right people with you. Yep.
Sure. And before moving forward, I really want to thank you, Mr. Principal, Dr. V.R. Manjunath, and Mr. President, Dr. Supriya VG, Dr. H.G. Nagendra, Palvi ma'am, Vanipriya ma'am, and all the faculties to provide us this opportunity. And as Prakhar said, like we would like to have this more interactive, and hope that some of entrepreneurs are sitting with us on right here on the call. So taking forward what Prakhar told, like what Pragar has just said, like problems can become opportunity if the right people come together. But you might be thinking, like, who are these right people? So when we started SenseLoaf, I think these are the people, like, who can share the vision with you, or who can come with the complementary set of skills and help you grow your vision forward. And in an interesting study, we had found that, like, in 20 which happened in 2018 in UK, that every 8 startup out of 10 were started by friends. And that's the same case which happened in SenseLoaf with us. So me and Prakhar met in the college, and we were in the same classrooms where you guys are 10 years back. And then then what when we saw some problem into different countries, I was in India, Prakhar was in US, and we were realizing some of the common problems in the market. And that's where, like, we had come together and being connected by a mutual friend. So that's how we started on the journey of SenseLoaf. So how your idea grow, or how the journey of your idea goes as you grow your startup. So even before starting up, you have a pre-startup stage where you ideate around, where you conceptualize your idea or brainstorm your idea with the people. You see, like, if this is something which people actually need in the market, or if this problem is something which can be with the solution for which uh, can be potential for the people, and it can make an impact in the market. So that's where, like, you start validating your problem, your idea, the problem you are solving. And that's where, like, you make the commitment, come up with MVP with the team, and you start validating your product into the market. And that's where the interesting journey starts, to find the right product market fit, like how this product can bring me the revenue, or how, if the customer will start paying for this product. And that's where you find different channels to set out the revenue stream, to set out whether your product will bring that impact into the market, and scale from there. And in the scale, you mostly go iterating your product based on the feedback, and you do it over and over until you become established. So validation is in itself, so it looks pretty straightforward, but it's really not. And when it comes to the validation, it in itself is a very hectic and long journey. So in the validation, you identify the set of groups, set of people you pitch to. It might be the potential investors, it might be potential people who can take you to the market, it might be your friends, or and you brainstorm your idea with them. You take their feedback and combine it to come up with a product to the market. And that's where you present your first MVP to your customers. And definitely, how you will be bringing customers, you will be talking to, again, like, a lot of people whom you think can be your early adopters, because not every company, or not every person, or uh, not every person whom you might think that will buy your product, they might not buy it. You have to go into the market and, like, find out those set of people who can adopt your product in the very early stages. And that's the main problem, because everybody won't, mature companies won't buy your product. Or people, if you are a B2C company, you have to validate your product with a small set of group of people first. So that's where you have to identify the early adopters, collect the feedback, and iterate your prototypes over and over until you get the product market fit. So and as I said, like, product market fit is finding it is a very challenging and very interesting journey altogether. So, and how it goes, so how much time it takes during, like, by doing all of this together. So initial, like, 6 months to 1 year, you will find, like, you have just coming up with MVP. You will see 6 months, 1 year is gone. And then you start searching for the customers, like, start delivering the product, iterating on the feedback. You will see, like, at least, like, 1 to 2 years in gone in building all the customer channels, the set of people you want to work with. And to start generating the revenue from the market. And as you go over, you find more channels, or so product market fit never ends. So you, in the whole journey, in the whole company journey, you keep finding what's the right market for my product. And you might have to change a lot of things around it, like your messaging, your approach towards the market, or maybe the solution you are building around your core solution, or it can be something else. So you have to adjust a lot of things while you are pivoting into the market. And that's where like you take different channels to continuously optimize your product. And it takes around like 4 to 6 years to start that multiple revenue streams. And that's where like you go and become a matured startup within like 10 years to 15 years of time. And so like one of the important thing we all know like is our funds, right? How can we if you really want to do startup, start saving money. That's what I'll say. And in the very initial days, we had run Senslow with our own money, and we had definitely had reached out to our friends. So initial days, like you get support, a lot of support from your friends and family, the people you have connected professionally with, or your college friend, your teachers, and you have to look everyone around and see like who can be helpful with me, or who can be part with me in this journey, right? So that area is called the valley of death. And because you don't have funds, and you have to grow into the market, you have to develop your idea, you have to develop the product, maybe you have to develop an inventory, set up an inventory. So what do? So these are the people like who might invest in the very beginning of your startup journey. And if you cross the valley of death, I think it's relatively easy. You do the break even, you start generating revenues, and as you start generating revenue, you have funds, right? And definitely, if you have plans to grow big, you can always reach out to VCs. There might be some acquisition and mergers, like offers that might come for the startups. Then you can have strategic alliance, business partnerships with the companies around to co-sell your product, or maybe like to grow together, right? So that's where like the fund problems start diminishing. But it's really it is really there at the very initial stage, like from 1 to 2 years, or 2 to 3 years of the company in the beginning. And as you grow big, while till the time you do IPO, it's almost like 10 to 15 years you will be there into the market. So what kind of people you will work in the initial days is, like I'll say, like initial team who will work with you to then come up with the product. The early adopters who can buy your product in the early stages, or at least give you a pilot or work with you to iterate your product. And the advisors and the mentors who will advise you on different aspects. Like if you are a person go to the tech, or so you will be definitely needing a sales advisor. And as a first time founder, we definitely needed a lot of mentoring and advisors from every perspective, like from the tech side, from the sales side, from the marketing perspective, or from the finance, especially from the finance and legal perspective. So you would be needing mentors, and that was like one of the thing that me and Prakhar at Senslow, in the very starting, we definitely got some advisors and mentor late on the board. So I think that was a learning for us, and I want to pass it to you guys that always keep some advisors, mentors from the very start like identifying these people and get them on board in the very starting when you launch when are you launching a company. And people who can help with the accelerator, incubator, investment. So accelerator are the companies which helps, incubators, accelerators, they are the companies who help startup with the initial funds, with the initial set of traction, getting the right network to the startups, and helping the founders to connect with the market. And so that they definitely come with the terms, but you have to see if you and it depends on like a lot of condition that if you have to join an accelerator or not. That's the conscious decision based on the startup stage at which you are getting accelerated. So this is a very interesting story which I wanted to share, is like pivot and adjust along the way. Let's say if you are doing something and you want to reach somewhere, it would be many adjustment that will come in the path. So this was the time in 1960s when Dr. Spencer Silver started like was trying to invent a super strong glue, but he ends up inventing super weak glue. So he didn't come up with like for 5 years like what I can do with this super weak glue. And it was just when one of his friend Art Fry, who was struggling with bookmarks, he tried the Spencer's glue on the bookmarks, and saw like he can still readjust the papers, readjust the bookmarks on the papers or in the books while keeping no harm to the papers. So, and that's how the sticky note got invented accidentally. And it was just 5 years which Dr. Spencer Silver had spent patiently like to see how he can like make use of this product. And today we know like sticky notes are one of the popular product in all the offices internationally or globally. Yeah. So that's how like he found his product market fit. And as said, and it is really a great quote which is being given by Mr. Ritesh Agrawal, OYO founder, that every overnight success is a 5-year-old story. So be patient, be calm, and don't think like competition is back, because competition definitely would be there into the market, and you need to always research around that, make your product better, and see what they are doing into the market. And remember, every company is unique, every story is unique. So and you have to keep the customers at everything you do, because all the things you are doing, you are trying to solving a problem for someone, right? And who are this someone? These are your customers who will be using your product, buying your product. So, and definitely keep tracking your work, keep iterating your work, and keep optimizing. So good things take time. So with that, I want to give it to Prakhar to talk about legal and ethical aspects of the startup.
Thanks, Gautam. So, guys, as he said, like like building a company can be a lot of different things. And while it's fun, while it's challenging, one thing that we all have to be cognitive about is the operational side of a startup, right? Even though that there's few things in a startup that will come across your way that you will have to take care of if you want to be successful in the long term. And that starts with setting up the right business entity. So there are three different kind of business entities which you can set up in India. So starting with sole proprietorship. So generally shops do this. So like a salon, or like if you are opening up your stationery store, because then as a owner of that shop, you share the liabilities and profits of that shop. And this is generally not the way startups go for, but this is one of the easier way to set up. But it's not a fundable business, and investors do not like to invest in sole proprietorship because it has a lot of liabilities directly associated with the owners. So the two business structures which startups generally go for are limited liability partnership and private limited company. So LLPs are easy to set up, and they're generally set up by two managing partners who are equally liable for the company as who are equally liable for the company's assets and losses. So even though it's easy to set up and it requires less compliances, it's still like VCs and angel investors do not prefer to invest in LLPs. That doesn't mean that setting up a LLP is a bad thing. Even Facebook, they started as a LLP and later on they converted to a private corporation. So private corporation, private limited company is the way to go, because what you are doing generally is that you are setting up a separate legal entity. So the owners of the company and the entity itself are two different segments, where even if you or the owners or the major stakeholders decide to leave the company, the legal entity continues to operate. And that is the primary reason that external investors and other stakeholders like advisors, mentors are attracted toward private limited company. And so generally all software technology companies go this route, and even SenseLoaf is a private limited company. This is still, I would say, a general structure, and every case is different, as I said. So even before you go out, make sure you get the right legal advice. Make sure you are talking to the right tax consultants who can understand your specific use case and then advise you what is the right structure for you. So what are the top legal risks faced by the startup, right? Starting the top one, the incorrect legal structure of the business can cause you so many issues later on that you will actually think that why did I ever start this company? Because the moment you start selling, the moment you start making money, the moment you start giving out equity, the moment you start hiring people, all of these things come into play. And sooner or later, it will come back and like haunt you if you don't have the right legal structure. So founders agreement is something very interesting. As Gautam mentioned earlier, right, that friends, generally friends or people who you know with, or somebody in your network are the people you start your company with. So when you're starting, like you're full with passion and you're very excited about the prospects of being that successful. And in that case, like we don't think about uh, setting up an agreement or a contract. But think about the scenario, right? Like 2 years down the line, anything can happen. Like anybody can have personal issues. Like somebody wants to decide to go and work for the company, or even if the startup is not working, what do you do then, right? So a founder's agreement at the start of a startup is extremely important. Like even though it does sound mundane, but that is something I would honestly say, like keep in mind and have that when you start your company. Again, like tax laws, not having proper licenses, improper documentation. These are the issues like which will be a horror to you and your startup journey. Uh, and especially like when you're selling your shares, because in the early stages, what's happening is that you're attracting angel investors, you're attracting advisors, you're attracting uh, people to work you with. And what do you give them in detail? Like we don't have much money in this stages. So what do we do? Is like you sell them shares, you give them a part of your company. So that right documentation, like how you create your shareholding agreement, I cannot stress this enough. Like it's probably the most important thing you will do, right? Because if you Google it, like there are probably hundreds of templates you can find of like how do you create your shares agreement, like how do you like sell your equity. But do not go for it. Do spend money on it. Get the right company secretary, get the right tax advice, and have your shareholding agreement in place. Again, like then another legal risk is like privacy policy. We are all so careful about the data laws these days, and the first thing which you want to do is like have the right website privacy policy. Again, like there are hundreds of generic templates available in the market. Again, do not go for a generic content. Like find like consult a legal advisor, make sure your website privacy policy is clear and it's telling you about like how people are interacting with your business. Like if they're visiting your website, are you storing the information? If you are doing business with them, like how you're using their data to like do business. So these are some of the things that it's very imperative that you are careful about in the at the onset of your journey. Again, your intellectual property. You have a brilliant idea, right? Like you're very excited, but there are always somebody who is doing something similar in the market. So you need to have that protection against your IP, right? So have that right IP, have that right documentation, get those right people, tax consultants, legal advisors who can guide you at the initial stage of your journey. And this is the place I would strongly suggest spend some money, right? Even if you have to, because trust me, the ROI on this investment will like reap you multiple benefits in the long term. So how do you mitigate these risks? We are not experts. Like, I mean, we know what we're doing in our domain, but we are not experts and we should not do everything on our own, right? Like, I mean, we are human, like we cannot be expert in every single aspect. So take that legal advice, like hire those legal and financial professionals. Documentation, like we are living in a digital age, but make sure like your documentation and process, because Indian government, like the Indian tax process, like they love to come and do audits. Like not today, but 2 years down the line, 3 years down the line, they will come back and do a tax audit on you, no matter who you are. So have that documentation and process. Keep that awareness. Like, I mean, I don't think like you can give an excuse that I was not aware of this policy, that's why we couldn't handle it. So ignorance is not the right excuse if you like get stuck in a lawsuit or if you are being audited by the Indian government. Have that awareness and focus on data privacy. So yeah, that's all about like, you know, the legal risk and mitigation. So that's another thing which you know, we really need to think about the ethics in the early stages, right? So define your core values early on. And what do we mean by that, right? The core values early on are the way you are working on a daily basis. Like me and Gautam, like you guys have to sit down and think about, okay, like these are the few things or the few lines that we will never cross. Like we'll always be transparent to each other. Like you will have that communication. If we are, you have to be honest with each other. So, and those core values could be anything according to the people you're working with, but define those things at the early stages, because we, even though like you understand some things, but the people you will hire, right, like they probably wouldn't understand the depth of your emotions and your passion. So when you have that defined, you can integrate that in your hiring process. Like be communicative about like what is right and what is wrong, like what are the things that you cannot absolutely do into the company. And then when you're doing that, that will lead to a culture of openness where your employees or the people you're working with will have that confidence to approach you and say like, hey, look, yeah, you know, like I did something wrong, or, you know, I don't know what to do in this scenario. Like, what can we do about that? So always have that openness and lead by example. Be accountable, right? If you do something wrong, own it. Like if you made a mistake, own it. Like it's fine. Like we all make mistakes, but leading by example is probably the most important thing that you can do. So what's the startup culture? Like this is probably like a very fun slide, and I love to like talk about it because you have that passion, right? That's why you start. Like, and founders don't realize this, and we even didn't realize this, that our individual personalities play such a strong role in the culture, because the way we interact with people, the way we interact with other stakeholders automatically get ingrained in how people perceive your company, right? So how uh, how people see SenseLoaf is mainly because how me and Gautam interact with those customers, those stakeholders and investors. And be authentic, right? We all are different, right? So the differentiation is something which will be very helpful, right? Like there are, in this day and age, there are thousands of stories, like there are thousands of people doing different things across the globe. There's so many success stories. Like everybody likes to like replicate, like, oh, Jeff Bezos did like this, like I'm going to find the same routine. But I would say learn from them. Do not replicate them, right? Like be authentic. Like it's your story, right? So when you're true to your values, when you're true to your cultural like core concepts, I think that will lead you to your success. And I'm not saying that we have figured out the way, but that's what I feel, that instead of replicating, be authentic and be agile, right? Don't be afraid to make mistakes, right? Like don't be afraid to make mistakes. Like fail fast, fail quickly, try new features. I mean, in a short span of time, in about 2.5, 3 years, like we have already made so many improvements based on our feedback. Like if we have to like release a new feature, we are very agile about it. Like we talk to our customers, we get that feedback, and boom, like in 3 weeks, like we can make that change. Because that's how, like we don't have infinite resources, like you're limited with that resources. To inbuild that agility in your team, in your mindset, so that when you're working together as 5, 6 people, 10 people, you're right there, right? Like you can quickly grow. Yeah. So this is a very like interesting part. Is conflict good or bad? Like this is such a big question. Like why? Like should we avoid it? Like what's the thing, right? I know I'm curious about to like know from students, but I'm just like curious to know like what do people think about, like is conflict good or bad? Like what do you think? Like should you, like if you don't like people, like should you talk to them about that? And the idea is that I think like conflict is neither good or bad. Uh, it's a necessary sometimes, because sometimes it can lead to openness, sometimes it can lead to confrontation, and it can lead to like improving things. So we have to see it in a positive way. Like you have to. So yeah, hi, saying anything? Hello.
Hello, Sudeep. One second. Sudeep,
Yeah.
you have something to say, Sudeep?
No worries.
Yeah, go ahead, Prakhar.
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
think it's just Mike. So the
Yeah.
idea is that we should not see conflict as something good or bad. Sometimes it's necessary, sometimes it's not. That's one thing for sure, that conflicts will happen. That's something that I can guarantee you guys, right? It will happen, right? Like whether you are just two people or 20 people or 2,000 people. This is an inevitable part of a startup journey, right? Like you will go to that. So that leads to me to my next points, like how do we resolve that, right? So what I'm showing here is that there are 5 ways, 5 strategies which people either take consciously or unconsciously when it comes to conflicts. The first one is avoiding, which is the lower left corner. So that's the, I think, the best, the most easiest strategy which people take in a workplace. You know what? Like, let's forget it. Like we there is some conflicts. I don't like how they work. Let's not talk about it. It's fine. Like we'll just forward to that. Like it's probably the most common strategy which people take. But trust me, like this is not how you should be wanna go. You wanna go about conflicts, because as you can see, like it leads to extremely low cooperation, and the assertiveness of the team members on each other also becomes extremely low. The other thing which people love to do is compete, right? I don't like the way they work. Like I think like what they're doing is like stupid. Like let me show them how I can do it. So you people start competing, not for the good for the company, but to establish a point that I am right, right? And that leads to friction, and that leads to extremely low cooperation, but it also moves people away from their core focus of building the company which you so love. The other thing, the third strategy which people do is accommodating. Like people accommodate, right? They're like, it's fine. You know what? Like, I don't want to stress at workplace. I don't want to be right. Uh, I don't want to like think about it too much. It's fine. Like, let them have their way, right? It's fine. I'll follow their way and I'll do their way. It's fine. I mean, in a way, it's okay. Like, it doesn't lead to conflicts. But what is allowing them to do is that you're allowing a third person to get away with something which is probably not right. So, and you can see this generally in households, that people accommodate. So accommodating is not, it doesn't lead to conflicts, but that's probably not the right strategy when it's coming to your startup, like especially when you're building something, because you want to make sure that it's what your guys working on is the right for your startup. And the fourth strategy, which project managers or any organizational will lead to have, is collaboration, right? That nobody wins, everybody gives up something. And if two people are having conflict, they sit down and talk to each other. And they not even talk, but it's like, I want to do two things, I'll do one thing, you do one thing, and we both are happy. So that's the collaboration which companies generally push for, right? So that everybody is happy. But what we really want to do is compromising, right? Because it sounds like when you're compromising, like you're not actually working. But in this sense, when you're compromising, you're actually sitting down with that person in front of you, and you're talking to them to understand like what is their point of view, how we can come to a solution. And instead of me giving up, like, okay, like make, instead of this being a transaction, people are actually working together to come to a common solution which is in the good of the company, not for the good of the two people who are involved. I hope like uh, these strategies, like these points, like make you aware of like how you are dealing with conflict in your daily base, like maybe in your hostels, in your classrooms, when you are at the tea stall, like having one samosa. But these are small things which we do in our daily lives, the idea is that you're aware of it so that you can use these strategies more consciously when you're coming to a conflict. So this is another one quote which I really love, is that we have, if you want to practice the process of conflict resolution, we must completely abandon the goal of getting people to do what we want. That's not how you do solve conflict, because if your inherent goal is to make sure that the other person should do what we want, then it will not lead to a resolution. It will lead to friction, because then even if the other person will do what you want to do, they're not happy. And if people are not happy, they will not be able to give their best to the good of the startup. Like to and you want to make sure you are gonna have your okay, go to the next slide, Gautam.
Prakhar, we are not able to hear you. Hello. Yeah. So I think, yeah. Let me start. I think Prakhar has some network issues at his place. So
All right.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So and what Prakhar has just said, I think, and what we had told, like, so the plan, plan might look like a very straightforward, but it's not, but it's really not. So in reality, you will have many ups and downs, and you have to sometime like have conflicts with the people. You have sometime have legal issues. You might have finance problems. So in reality, a startup is not very straightforward like you plan. It has its ups and downs during his whole life. So yes, are you ready to get your startup off the ground? And thank you for having us on this workshop. And definitely, for any help, you can connect with us on our emails or phone numbers. Yes, that's it from our side, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you so much, Gautam and Prakhar. It was
Yeah.
indeed good feeling to hear you both on your journey, and you sounded more very established corporate people now. I'm happy that my students are here, and it is also a learning to the juniors who are out there. This is a right example and model what you're saying right now. These two students who are your seniors as well, there's a right passion and good hard work actually lead them to what they are now. So as you can see up on the slide, they are the co-founders of the company SenseLoaf, and you can see the huge abbreviations which you always like to have. What more? And the new beginning, the post-COVID, I think now it is more of an appreciation towards the startups. So we need not actually worry about the placements or your job securities and all. So if you have the passion, yes, then you have the strength, you have the age, every factor with you. So you can always be the next CEOs of some other companies. So thank you. It was really a good experience to me as well to be hearing from Gautam, especially, who was an introvert as a student, but it is I'm very glad to see him grow into this level now. So I just take up a few questions, if any, from the students. I can see 80 of the participants. If you have been actively being through the session, and if you have any question, just type Q in the chat box. I will call out your names so that you can unmute yourself and speak. Any of you who have questions? The juniors? Yes, I get one. Aman, you can come up and raise your question. Aman,
Yes, ma'am. Uh,
go
my
ahead.
question actually is from the legal aspect. You described LLP as something that is not very attractive from the investor's point of view. I understand why sole proprietorship is not, but why is it that LLP, like registering a company as an LLP, is not good from the investor's perspective?
Yeah. Thanks, Aman. So because in an LLP, the liabilities of the company are directly related to the owners or founders, right? So even if you decide to leave the LLP, like in mid of the process, then the company almost breakthroughs. So in that case, the investors see a very high level of risk that their money is not secure. But in a private limited company, even if major stakeholders are deciding to leave the company, they can sell their shares back to some stakeholders. So the legal entity can operate individually apart from the founders. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes, that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll add to that. And also in LLP, there are very less formalities in terms of having your board meetings, your advisors meetings. So you do not have very good formalities around that. But in private limited company, there is a process set up. There is a structure in which you will be having your board meetings. You will be reporting to your advisors. So it's very pretty well defined in how you work, how you operate as a private limited company. So that's where there is a core foundation into the private limited, and that's the basic difference, which again like helps investors to get more attracted towards a private company and not towards LLP.
Uh, yeah, I actually have an additional question to that. If a company has been already registered and it's not private limited as of now, can it be pivoted to a different business setup? For example, if it's an LLP right now, can this be a private limited later on down the line?
Yep, absolutely. You can do that. As I said, right, even Facebook started as an LLP, and you can always like transfer to like a private limited company. It's a straightforward process. Consult with your tax advisors, and they will be able to help you with that. It's not a complicated process, and you can always pivot.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Aman. I can see a budding entrepreneur in Aman now. Good. Anyone else? Any other questions? Type in Q in the chat box and we can have a conversation. The participants, children, you have any other questions to
Yeah.
post?
Trust me, like, I mean, I think if we say like this will contribute towards your internal, I think we'll have more questions.
I did. Believe
Oh,
me,
this
I
is
did.
going to be a part of
There
the
is
internal.
no, there is a benefit if they are actively done. Say any learning is a learning at finally. So I have just put that up, and moreover, I think they are up for their exams.
Okay.
So yeah, probably they are not much into it. Students, are you still there? If you're there, you can raise questions or type in Q. All right. Yeah, I have a little thing for Prakhar and Gautam. Now, since you have been established and you have a private company of your own, is there any chance that you can take up your juniors to be training under you? Any possibility for internships
Absolutely.
or something?
Absolutely. I think we'll love that because that's one thing that we missed when we were in college, right? So we didn't get those opportunities. So I mean, we are actually hiring right now for like to expand our product development, both on marketing, sales. So we are looking for interns in all stages. So we would love to like have, fellow MVITians work with and us, grow and learn. So any opportunity, like you guys have our contact number, feel free to reach out and we'll be happy to like, talk to you.
Yo, that's huge. Thank you so much because I think post the pandemic, the students are worried. So in case you have any internships or you have some process in your companies, do get back to us. We have the best students. One or two also, if you could give them an opportunity, would be a giveaway to your alma mater. Yeah, thank you so much on that. For the participants, I will just now put up the feedback link. Kindly fill up the feedback link for your certificates. Otherwise, you will not get your certificates. All right. And may I now request Dr. Sushila Shidnal to kindly deliver the vote of thanks and informal session. Thank you.
Thank you, Pallavi ma'am. It's my gratitude to render a vote of thanks for today's resource person, our proud alumni, Mr. Prakhar Agarwal, co-founder, CEO, Senslove Technologies, and Mr. Gautam Khurana, co-founder, CTO, Senslove Technologies. I would also extend my thanks to our management, Shri KET, and Principal and IIC Chair, Dr. V.R. Manjunath, President, IIC, Dr. Supriya, Vice President, IIC, Dr. H.G. Nagendra, Professor and Head Department of BT. I would also extend my thanks to IIC Convener, Dr. Vani Priya, Associate Professor, Department of Information Science. And I would also like to thank Dr. Pallavi ma'am for giving this opportunity. Thank you. Thank you one and all.
Thank you, Dr. Sushila.
Thank you so much, Dr.
Thank you. Yeah, Prakhar and Gautam, I kindly request you also to kindly give us a feedback in the form of a mail about the session of today. Thank you
Absolutely.
so much. Yeah, looking forward for more such events with you. Thank you. Thank you both. Good luck.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, ma'am.
We
Bye.
now declare. Bye-bye. We now declare the
Yeah,
event.
and all the best for the exam.
Yeah.
Guys.
Good luck, guys.
Yeah, thank you
Good
so
luck.
much. Yeah, your event is now closed and you can all come out of the event. Thank you.